It's time that I came clean and talked about one of the biggest gripes that I have in our world today, the public transportation system. Welcome to Journey Through the Awesome. Welcome back to JTTA. Today, we are going to talk about a pet peeve that I haven't had until fairly recently. Now, those of you who have ever used public transit, you probably understand it's not always the most reliable system. For those others of us like that, we know that it is a terrible system. I'm talking poop, human feces all over the steps of whatever station you happen to be at in New York, in Chicago, in DC, in Lagos, and in Tokyo, in big metropolitan areas all across the world. We know that the public transit system, not always the best. No matter where I don't care where you're at. If you are in a place with a population above, I don't know, 500,000, you'll get weird people. You'll get several weird people in the population. You will definitely see people out there who you can tell, okay, maybe I should just walk this way. And I know a lot of us, we don't want to judge by appearance, but when you live in a major city, you kind of have to. And there's just so many things wrong with the public transit system. But today, I will not be educating us about the problems with certain people we may encounter on the public transit system that we see on TikTok and Instagram everywhere. People dressed up as Spider-Man pulling other people's pants down. People going out, jumping onto the tracks and then jumping off. People who jump off of subway trains and then do parkour over benches and stuff. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the system itself. That's right, establishment. I'm going all rogue on you, Marvel rogues. I just like saying rogue because it sounds cool. I like the word rogue. I'm going all rebellion. Anyway, let me tell you all about the public transit system and my main problem with it. So I had to use the system going from Washington, D.C. in the U.S. to Ohio in the U.S. But the thing was, I was using the bus system. So I wasn't using trains. I wasn't using a metro station unless it was the one that I used to get to Union Station, which I used to get to the bus that I was going to be using to travel. So in DC, I started my trip there and I was going from my apartment where I live for school and I was going down to the metro and I had to get over to Union Station to buy my ticket. So I went over to Union Station, got my ticket. That all was pretty straightforward. And I got to the station and I get on the bus. And it's a pretty straightforward process. It's really helpful. There are people everywhere. They tell you where to go. You should go that way. You're taking this train. Okay, that's the train you need to take. Go up those escalators, take a right, and you go to the train. It was very down to earth people, very useful, very helpful. So I get up and I get onto the bus. Bus driver, he's a comedian. He makes fun of me because in fairness, I did not know that seats aren't actually assigned. You get a ticket that says your seat number. So I assume, okay, let's see, 6A. Okay, I have to sit in 6A. But there was this woman who was sitting there. So I was like, hey, this is my assigned seat. And I sit next to the woman. And the bus driver comes onto the bus and he looks at me. He's like, these seats aren't actually assigned, right? And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah, you weird. You're gonna have to go to another seat. And he was hassling me. He was just making fun of me. It was kind of like that stuff. You know how there's older people who usually like try to make fun of younger people. They know, all right, I'm gonna just jab you a little bit. Yeah, it was that kind of situation. He told me to move to a different seat, and I did. And I was like, dang, that was embarrassing. But oh, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and germs, wash your hands first of all. That was not even the worst part of the night. So we got on the bus, and from Washington, D.C., I had to take it from D.C. to Pittsburgh, which is a city, for those who don't know, in Pennsylvania, a U.S. state. And so I go from D.C. to Pittsburgh. It's a very long drive for me. I'm not a huge fan of long drives. So whenever I have to go on a drive above 2 hours, oh, so long. It's too long for me. So I know for some people who maybe truck drivers or they drive a lot of long distances and they don't feel that same way. For me, I'm just like, oh my God, because I hate sitting in some place for too long. You all may notice in these episodes, I'm moving around constantly. I just like to move, right? So long drive is a long drive to me. I go from DC to Pittsburgh. It's a straightforward drive. Yes, I'm uncomfortable, but I handle it. And we get there to the station. Now, this this is where the problems happen. I had to get up close to make this dramatic. I'm so sorry. You probably clicked off this video because this is uncomfortable. I just have to emphasize to you that this is where the bad stuff starts to happen. People, this is where it starts to happen. I go into the station, and from there, I have 2 hours to wait. It's about 5:30, and my bus takes off at 7:30, right? So I have to wait 2 hours before I get on the next bus that I need to go that's going towards Chicago, but is making a pit stop in Ohio, which is my destination. So I get everything set up and I have my Nintendo Switch out and it's almost dead, so I have to charge it. Phone's almost dead. My technology is almost dead. I don't know why. It's a curse. It's a curse to me. I swear I'm not on TikTok all day. I swear. But my technology is just getting sapped. I feel like somebody long ago, a witch or a wizard, placed a curse on me that has all of my technology just dying every single day. I don't know what it is. They just have technological illnesses. But I had to get all of my technology out to charge it. And I was just waiting and waiting and waiting. Pretty straightforward. By the time we get to 7:10, reminder, my bus leaves 7:30. So I have to be there around 15 minutes before. I'm like, okay, I need to put my coat on, my hat on, my gloves, get everything out because it's cold. It's cold in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. It is cold. So I get everything on and I go out and I decide to wait outside because I want to make sure that I'm not late. I'm pretty early, want to get to the bus and I'm there and another bus pulls into the parking lot and a guy comes out and he looks at me and he says this. You're gonna have to go back inside. You gonna have to go back inside. You can't be out here, okay? You can't be out. Hey, I'm gonna need you to go back inside. I need you to go back inside. He says it like that, and so I'm like, but I'm waiting for my bus. He says it doesn't matter if you're waiting for your bus. Well, he said it don't matter if you're waiting for your bus. You got to go back inside. I was like, okay. So I go back inside, and now I have to wait for my bus, but the bus is about to take off because at that point it's around 7:25. So I'm like, okay, maybe I'll wait and see if they make an announcement. Nobody makes an announcement. Nobody on the loudspeaker. There's nobody who comes in and says, bus so and so leaving for Chicago. And I'm like, okay, so what do I wait for? So I'm just pacing around and I look outside and eventually I see the bus that is the type of bus that I'm supposed to leave. So on my ticket, it has the name of the type of bus that I'm supposed to be using. And I see the bus with that name pulling out of the parking lot. I'm like, wait, is this a mistake? That's my bus. And I see through the window, through the tinted black windows in the winter nights, I see the glare of phone screens. I see reflections of people. That is a filled bus. My bus taking off. I just missed my bus. This is the most frustrating part because now I'm going to the front desk and I go up to the man. I say, yo, and this rudest man I've ever met. That's an exaggeration. There's plenty of rude people, but this man was so rude. I was like, yo, man, what gives? I even called him man. I did not. I said, yo, what gives? And he's like, what do you mean what gives? And I said, that was my bus. It just took off. And he was like, well, there's nothing we can do about it. I mean, that just took off. That was your bus. If you want to, you could always try to transfer your ticket, but you have to call. And actually, he didn't say that. This is the crazy part. He said that I had to buy a separate ticket to use for a different bus that was going to the same location in Chicago. I was like, what are you talking about? So I called them. I called the station, and the woman on the other end said, no, you can transfer your ticket to a different bus. And I was like, okay. So I asked him again, and he said, you can't do that. So to keep a long story short, I wasn't able to get another bus. I had to spend money on a cheap hotel, the cheapest hotel I could find. and spend the night there. It was crazy. Side note, the winter weather in Pittsburgh gets to below the negatives in December in the US. And I'm like, oh, I had to go out yesterday morning. This all happened yesterday. I had to go out yesterday morning and I went out and got a breakfast smoothie after an early morning workout. And it's so cold. It is so cold. My hands are numb. My fingers are numb. I'm walking back to the hotel with the smoothie in my hand. I cannot feel my fingers or my toes. I feel like a human sarcophagus just walking down the street with a smoothie in my hand and I can't feel anything. My limbs are numb. That's a side note because that was everything that happened after the fact. Public transit, you doomed me. You doomed me, public transit. You doomed me to a morning of cold smoothiness. How dare you? I didn't even want to stay at the hotel. I did not want to stay there, but you made me stay there. Public transit. My biggest thing is, why would you tell me to go wait inside when you know a lot of us are waiting for the buses anyway? Why would you tell me to do that? It wasn't the same at the DC transit station, so I don't know why it was different. And I just don't. Nobody was helpful. There was almost nobody working. There was nobody who we could communicate with. There was no communication whatsoever. There should have been somebody outside whose whole job was to say, yo, if you are leaving for the Chicago bus, we are boarding now. Somebody who could announce it, but I was forced to stay inside, so I couldn't hear anything like that. And there wasn't anything like that going on. No announcements were made. Nobody over the speaker said anything. It was pure, unadulterated lack of communication. Pure lack of communication. And I have nothing against the city of Pittsburgh or the people of Pittsburgh. I have nothing against the city of Pittsburgh. I just did not want to stay the night there. I didn't want to be forced to take that option. But because the transit system wasn't working for me, I had no other option. So, yeah, that was by far easily one of the worst situations I've ever had happen with any type of public transit ever. That was worse than me going to New York and seeing that human poop. That was worse than me going to DC and seeing that one guy come on with no shirt and his cheeks was all out. That was worse than any situation I have ever had. But it's all good. At the end of the day, I think that there's a lot of things that we could talk about changing this and changing that. At the end of the day, struggle is struggle. And when you try to go somewhere, just understand that somebody out there, they don't want you to leave. They don't want you to move. They want you to stay right where you at. If you guys can support it, please let me know. Tell me about your stories. I'm completely mixing up my words. That's pretty much it. Stay motivated. There's nothing else to say. Peace.